You're listening to Conversations That Matter with your host, Terry Conrad.
Hi everyone, this is Terry Conrad. Welcome to Conversations That Matter. I am super excited to introduce you to Lindsey Smith, who is, I believe it's business developer, business management?
Professional development manager.
There it is. Professional development manager at CIR, which is a ginormous brokerage in Calgary. How many offices do you guys have?
We have 4 offices in Calgary. We have 12 offices throughout, spanning southern Alberta.
Wow.
And about 600 agents and staff. So
huge, absolutely growing, completely independent.
Yes, completely independent.
Doing your own thing. Why don't we start quickly with the brief history of CIR? And I think what is most interesting to me and to our listeners will be, like, what was it about CIR that attracted you specifically?
Yeah, CIR has been around since 1983. It's 31 years old now. Started off by Carl Stater. He bought in very, very early on, and 2 brothers, his sons, took it over, Ron and Ray Stater, and they did a fantastic job of growing it. They've been running it for the last, I think almost 15 years full time, but they've been involved in the company for the last 20 years. And what was the other half of that question?
Well, I'm just curious, like, what is it like you were attracted to this company for a reason. You are a specific kind of person. You're very, like, I think you have a lot of vision, some high values. So I'm curious about what was it about CIR that attracted you?
When I started with the real estate industry, I started my career with Century 21. They had, the advice that I got was go with someone you connect with. And I really connected with the manager at that brokerage.
Right.
And funny enough, they had a Billy bookcase from IKEA full of training stuff. It was like Anthony Robbins books and Brian Tracy and some real estate guys. And I just asked them, I said, hey, if I join up with you guys, can I read and listen to that? And they said, yeah. And I said, I'm in. So I like the manager. Plus, that's what I viewed as education, because I was already spending probably $10,000 a year on going to conferences and seminars, just something I was passionate about. So they had the education portion of it on the wall.
Right.
And then I built a team with Century 21. And then I heard about CIR, and they were very technologically advanced. They had the support systems there. And at first, way back when, they were a discount brokerage, and it wasn't something that even appealed to me. And so we kind of talked about it with our team and said, hey, are we going to move it over? And I stopped selling at the start of 2007. I just ran my team full time. And
which is such a different job than being an agent, running a team.
Yeah, it's basically like running a business.
Right.
But that sounds sexy, and it's not as sexy as you you want to say. It's like, and so it's funny when we talk about failure here. It's let me count the ways that Lindsey Smith screwed everything up, because it's true. It's true. I made so many mistakes, like a $50,000 Yellow Pages ad, which I got 1 call off of. So there's more on that later.
Yes.
But anyways, I started doing business consulting after I finished selling. My team still ran until the end of 2012. And some people just asked me to come on and create client relationship management programs for them and do different things like that. And I got kind of in customer service training. And then CIR approached me and said, come on, come in and teach my programs. And I said, no. Lindsey Smith doesn't work for anybody. And then I sat down with Ron and Ray, and they told me about the vision, about where they wanted to go, what they wanted to do, what they were trying to create with the brokerage,
right,
and that they were going to give me some autonomy to really grow with it and develop it. And I just had this playground to work within. Like you talk about new agents coming into the business, and I know you go through a real estate course, and it's so funny to me that the industry pays, or the clients pay you to take them through the buying or the selling process.
Yep.
But wouldn't they be appalled if they knew that we didn't get any training on it?
I will never understand this until the day that I die. What is up with the licensing? I will never get it as long as I live. It makes absolutely no sense. You come out of that license process not having the slightest idea how to sell real estate.
Yeah, it's really an interesting process. I remember when I got my first listing, I walked into my manager's office, just like, okay, so I took some photos, I got it up on MLS, I did a virtual tour, and I'm going to sit in an open house, but other than that, how do I sell this thing?
Right.
Like, no one taught me how to actually sell a house, and they're paying you a lot of money to do it.
Yes.
And so you learn it through experience, you do that, but I mean, that's something that was exciting to me, that I felt like I could pass that along. And one of the things that worked well for me was I got super sick in 2006. I was in the hospital for about 2 weeks and out of commission for 3 weeks in total. And my business still ran without me. And it wasn't like, I mean, people are out of commission for 7 months or a year or 3 years. And so I was so lucky, but it was a reminder to me about the power of leveraging through other people. So
leveraging and scale, it's like the name of the game.
Yeah, it really, really is.
Interesting. So go ahead. I was going to ask, actually, so CIR, I mean, I have several friends in Calgary who CIR has become more and more attractive to them. It comes up in conversations more and more.
Yeah.
I know that people really rave about you and Kirsten, who she's a marketing director, I believe.
Yeah, and my girlfriend, which was
your girlfriend,
all scandalous at the beginning.
Nothing like some fun office drama.
Yeah.
There's a few things that I wanted to touch on. One is, what are the kinds of courses that you do offer? Because this is the passion that you and I share, which is let's help new agents get up and running, and then keep the agents that are already operating in solid business moving forward and growing. So what are some of your passions that you love to teach about?
Yeah, our first one, we have a bachelor program, which is like 8 weeks to start up in real estate, and that covers everywhere from starting your database, making checklists for your business, getting your finances account set up, like the very, very basics, buyer process, seller process, contracts, and what they mean, and going in deep into the contracts and the specifics of it. And then we have our master's program, and I always say we start off, and my passion is, again, getting people initially. The only reason people typically fail in this business is because they don't have clients to work with.
Right.
So it's like, well, where are your clients coming from, and what they're told and what they see as sexy, they don't see the blood, sweat, and tears and financial investment that's gone in behind some of those systems. When we talk about online lead generation and things like that, and even some social media stuff, which can be very powerful if used correctly, but chances are you met the people that you're connecting with and friending with offline.
Right.
And then Facebook can be a tool to connect with them online, but people still got to meet with people in real life, because it's still human beings that buy houses. And
Absolutely.
I always joke with people about, there's that new website that you can swipe your credit card and buy online, like a house now. But the reality is, people say, well, I haven't heard of that website. And I say, well, that's because it doesn't exist yet. So you still have to meet with somebody face to face to do it.
Yeah.
So I love talking about the human aspect of real estate. But with that said, technology not for the sake of technology, but technology for the sake of freeing up your time to spend either A, more time with your clients, or B, do the things that you love to do with your family, or just spend more time growing your business. And that's the side of it. Once we get you up and running, then it's like, okay, what are the key systems that you can put in place to do more with less, more systems, less effort, start building teams. How do you want to structure your team? What should the legal structure look like? All these types of things. And then we'll kind of teach them and work with them on that. And I've been so fortunate, because I've had this huge group of knowledge to pull from, and there's way more knowledge out there than there is, in my head. And I have a little bit of experience, but I get to dive into 600 different business models.
Yeah, amazing.
And it's been so fortunate. And some people, we're very proprietary, so that they won't share, and that's fine. I'm happy to just listen and consult that way. And some people are just like, hey, share it with the world, and it's been outstanding. So
I love that. I just did an interview with a gentleman down in Seattle, Michael Ackerman, who is the most generous. He believes in coming from a place of abundance and just sharing it with absolutely everyone, because he's like, I am my own guy. There is only one Michael Ackerman, so even if you have all of my information, you can't deliver it or have that same experience that he can deliver. And I love that attitude.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'm the same way. It's just like and people are way more attracted to people who are willing to share. And if there's new agents who are thinking about joining us, or other agents, it's like, let's just sit down. Our office managers can sell you on CIR. Let me sit down with you and just share what a bunch of other people have done, hear what your challenges have been, and see what we can do, see what our knowledge can do to overcome that.
I love it. So like I said, CIR is definitely on my radar. from a gal from Vancouver. It's pretty good, I think.
Cool.
Yeah. So the reason we're actually having this conversation isn't just because I respect you and I think you're doing great things at CIR, but it's also because I was actually at your office recently, one of them, when I was visiting in the summer to come and speak with Kelly Scar's team. And we spoke briefly because we'd been talking about Kelly Scar's 360 and the idea of failure and embracing failure had come up. And you said a few things, and I just thought, oh, we so need to dig into this. It's such an important conversation, and I love this idea because most of us are so afraid of being seen as a failure. And totally. In order to grow, you're going to have to take risks and fail and fail and fail many times before you're ever going to see success. I mean, right now there's that, that graphic going around where we used to say the straight line to success looked like that, but now it's like, that.
Totally.
So like, what's your position on failure?
Well, it sucks because
totally.
If that was that straight line, I think we'd all be happy on it. But I'll tell you, it's from the Lord of the Flies. It's the adversity that brings out the true nature in our human being.
Right.
But more importantly, with that, it's just that when you're talking and you're connecting with people, and whether you're an agent representing a client or a trainer or a speaker or an author or anything else, from someone who's been in front of the crowds a little bit, you run into this position where if you're always showing the side of, okay, this is what you do, and here's how you become successful, and even with your clients, it's like, okay, well, we did this wonderful, and this wonderful, and this wonderful, then people always think, well, that's great for you because you've grown up with a silver spoon in your mouth, and you have this type of stuff, and so easy for you to say. But you know what? I have a mother who just got diagnosed with cancer, and I have to take care of her full time, and you don't understand that. And it's like, I have 4 kids at home, and my husband just left me, and you don't understand that.
Yes.
And you're like, you're right, I don't, but the reality is there's people out there with bigger problems than you have who have done better things.
Yes. And
not saying everyone's got a different measure of success. I mean, you never approach it in that harsh kind of way, but the point is that people connect to you if you're willing to talk about the skeletons in your closet. Totally. And when I talk about, when we talk about mentors and finding mentors, am I allowed to just swear on this for a second?
Go crazy.
Okay.
I have the worst potty mouth ever. Well,
okay.
There's fair warning to everybody.
I just say everyone's got their shit. Mm-hmm. That's my kind of precursor. It's like you can have a mentor in your life or someone you look up to or a role model, but be very careful about being their role model, not putting them too up on that pedestal, because there's a role model for one thing. And it's like I'll take Warren Buffett, for example. Geez, does that guy know about the markets, financing, investments, things like that? But I'm not going to go to Warren Buffett for health advice. Right. I mean, the guy downs more Cokes and cheeseburgers than anybody else in the civilization, by the sounds of it. Yeah. But that whole point, it's like I really ask myself, would I want somebody else's life? And I really have a trouble doing that because I know that they got this dark side. You look at someone like Robin Williams. Well, how can this successful actor just be in that dark of a place? Yes. And I mean, depression is just one side of it. But I know that I've had some horrible lows in my life of just being like, I remember I used to own a firearm, and this is something I don't talk about very often, but it's like I had a moment where, how they say that here's the ground, this is James Ray in The Secret, and here's the growth coming up, and it's just about to peek through, and you just don't realize it's coming through, and then suddenly, you quit too soon, and that's it. Yes. Well, I had a moment where I was lying in bed, and I woke up, and I was like, wow. And I had this consulting business that I was running, and I was trying to start this online marketing program, and it wasn't getting uptake. I had all this great content to provide, it just wasn't getting uptake, and I was just like, holy crap. And the bills kept piling up. I had a real estate team running, but I was just like now what? I didn't want to go back into selling real estate, and that was the other choice. And it was like, and there was one moment that passed, and it was even lower than that. People were like, wow, how could you even get this low? But I was like, there's a gun in my closet. Is this a possibility? Yep. And then immediately I thought, I was like, well, geez, Lindsey, you teach this, get past this, everything else, and what are your other options in life? And I woke up and I literally rolled around 20 options of what I could do. But you have that moment, because I mean, I got into real estate because I couldn't pay my debts anymore. Yep. I took out an $8,000 loan on my credit card, which put me into $70,000 in consumer debt to get into real estate. And I was on the phone to bankruptcy trustees, first of all, in my 3rd month, and then second of all, in my 11th month of starting off business.
Yeah.
And that all worked out. In the end, I mean, I built this real estate team, but people don't talk like that. And it's
That's
like,
so true.
I've been there. I have realtors who come to me and they are, one payment away from being bankrupt and just, getting it all settled. And I have people that come into me who have cancer and medical issues and things like that. And I just, I get it. And I don't get the cancer side of it, but I get that things are really shitty right now for them.
Right.
And then when you tell people that, it's like, they almost open up and it's just like, holy geez, like the stuff that I did wrong, my first 3 months, I mean, I created this marketing campaign. I sent out 10,000 flyers. It cost me thousands. I was in marketing out of university, and I went and prospected for advertised on the back of this flyer, and I sent out 10,000 things, units of it, and thinking that I was just going to be the king of the world.
Yeah.
And I got 2 inquiries off of it that weren't even, there was just a request, another brochure.
Right.
It wasn't for anything else. And then I was on the phone with bankruptcy trustees, and I was just like, this is not working. I got a pity deal from my stepdad. I got a referral from one of the people in my office, and I got 1 deal from a kiosk shift that I sat.
Yep.
And it was just lucky. And then I had $16,000 in my bank account. I was 23 years old. I still had my $70,000 of consumer debt, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together that I should, save it. So I spent $6,000 at Stampede. Yeah. And taking out my clients and everything else. And that's for 1 week, like $1,000 a day pretty much is and I was just an idiot. I was just an idiot. And then I built my team and I grew too fast, and it was just amazing. But then I learned a bunch of stuff. And I learned a bunch of stuff along the way. And now when I look at businesses and my investing in real estate, I mean, I bought properties at the height of 2007.
Wow.
And I also bought properties in 2004, which paid off my debts. But I bought properties at the height of 2007. The good news was that cash flowed, but I thought that I was going to do a commercial rezoning on it. And I got all these investors, so I didn't have to put any of my own money in. So I raised, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then we're sitting on this property that had and I remember the phone call to one investor. That's the moment that I learned to always get sophisticated money when you get joint venture partners, because the unsophisticated money, the people that took it out on the line of credit, just keep calling you, being like, "What's the update? What's the update?" And I had lost all their money at one point.
Yeah, holy Anna, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and I was just like, what do I do? But now I understand there's real estate cycles, and the sun was always shining. 2003 through to even the end of 2007, it was just like the real estate market was up.
Absolutely.
And it was way up, and so
things were good, and we made good choices. We thought.
So I held on, and it's funny because when I tell those stories, people are just like, "I've been there."
It's so true.
I've been there.
It's so true, and yet. And when you tell that story, it opens up the possibility for everyone to suddenly just get real.
Totally.
Like, I think when you say, okay, look, you guys, this is me, this is who I actually am, here's some of the mistakes that I've made. And by the way, they're not just little mistakes. There's some pretty colossal mistakes that had me in some dark places.
Yeah.
And here I am, and I'm here to tell you that when things get tough, I get it. And you don't have to actually sit there. I think people suffer alone.
Oh, man, totally.
Right?
Yeah. Totally.
Like we are so afraid to let our weakness show that we suffer alone, and that's when it gets really dark.
One of the things that I've learned, and it didn't really hit me, but until recently, I started training for ultra marathons for 2 or 3 years, and one of the things you learn is this too shall pass.
Yes.
And you're running and it's hailing, or you're just dying and you're like, oh my God, I got to get to my next aid station, or I'm hungry and everything else. And you're just like, you just know that there's a point that this too shall pass.
Yes.
And that's with.
That's my phone.
Oh, go ahead.
We'll just put that off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that point where people have loved ones who pass away and there's pain. And you have, that deal that you wanted to come together doesn't because you really needed the money.
Yeah.
Don't worry, no one's ever starved in the city of Calgary. No one starves to death, and people bounce back from bankruptcy, and the old stories about these legends becoming bankrupt, and it's Hollywood movies aren't based off of the guy that just skipped through the meadows and had a wonderful day. It's like movies are based off of adversity, and without that adversity, we don't have a good plot.
It's like hero's journey. right?
Yeah.
That everybody talks about, where it's like, you got to get out there, and that's where the real growth happens, is when you're being challenged, and when you learn something and then you bring it back for everyone else to learn. That sort of that complete Joseph Campbell hero's journey that I love so much.
Totally. And right now, I'm in a very, very good place in my life. But that's going to change at some point. Something's going to happen. I'm going to have, someone close to me is going to have an accident, or like that. That stuff's inevitable.
Yes.
And so I think if you have the tools to deal with it, it's much, much better off.
How much of it do you think is mindset?
Oh, all of it. I mean, W. Mitchell, I think his name is the guy that got burned. He laid down his motorcycle. The gas cap came off, burned over 90% of his body. And then he recovered and he started like speaking. Yeah. But then he was flying an airplane, crashed his airplane, and now he's paralyzed.
What?
So he's disfigured and he's paralyzed. Look him up online. The guy's amazing. He's a speaker. And his thing is, it's not what happens to you, it's what you choose to do about it. Yeah, and so very classic, classic saying, but boy, is that true. I mean, you can just frame your sorrow however you choose to frame it. Or
that's so true. And I'm guilty of it. Like, I know I have gone down pity lane many, many, many times, where I'm just like, oh, this sucks so bad, and it's not fair, and that's lovely, but guess what? It is what it is. So you either figure it out and get on with it, or you just shrivel up and die. Well,
and the other thing too is that I did a bunch of studying. You talked about like heroes and stuff, but like the warrior's journey, and warriors, when you talk about in the sort of philosophical sense, feel their emotions more than anybody else, and everyone's entitled to a mourning period.
Yes.
It's like everyone, like if you have a setback in your business, in your life, you have a mourning period. But I always tell people, it's like you're on the clock for mourning.
Oh, I like that.
And it's true. It's like, okay, so you broke up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, and it's like, okay, you have week and a half of mourning, and then it's like, now you got to sort of put on a brave face again and get back out there. Your mother passes away, and it's like, okay, you got a month of kind of getting the affairs together and stuff like that, and then it's like, you got to kind of start to make that change and sort of make that switch. And because I think
that's true.
Life will go on. And the worst thing is, how are you honoring them?
Yes.
By just staying in mourning. Is that what they wanted for you? I hope this person's in demise forever. Maybe when you break up with somebody.
For sure.
But yeah, divorce. I hope that they're forever. Yeah. But no, I mean, really, it's a standpoint where they want you to move forward in case of the death of a loved one.
Agreed.
To kind of switch this from less of a philosophical thing, when we were talking about it in terms of Kelly, and vulnerability and talking about your failures. I mean, that's the clients that you had who the very first house I sold was a grow up. Didn't know it, and it was to my parents' best friend. Did you really?
Yes. That's funny.
Virtual high five.
Seriously, and I was like pretty sketchy. I wasn't sure. It was never really confirmed, but it was so sketchy, and I was like, of course, this is my first listing. Anyway, back to you.
Well, and I sold it to them, and it wasn't until the neighbors went in and said, "Hey, you bought the grow up house."
Oh God.
Good thing we didn't have we didn't have the same systems back then. Yeah. It wasn't condemned by like Alberta Health or anything, so we were good.
Goodness,
but it was a mess, anyways. But now I know the signs.
Yes.
For the grow up, and I know I've had contracts go sour, and I've seen my colleagues have contracts go sour, and I've seen a bunch of issues. And with the way that we formulated our team, we made some mistakes right out of the gates, like some big mistakes. And about how we delegated out the services, what we chose to pay for, and everything. And now I know not to do that. So when I speak to someone, I'm coming from a place of not I have a hunch that doesn't work or that's dangerous. I've been there.
Yeah.
I know exactly what's going to happen. And let me tell you about the dark road that you're about to go down, or the dangerous road that you're about to go down. And now when I talk to clients, it's like I no longer make recommendations on price over the phone, because the time that I did and then walked in their house and they had done all these beautiful renovations, I was low in my price, and I can't do that anymore. It would be unprofessional for me to give you a price over the phone. I need to come in and see the property. I've made that mistake.
Agreed. Why do you think that, just to totally go sideways for 1 second, why are agents so afraid of sticking to their fees and their commission structure, and so afraid to tell their clients, here's what you need to do to get your home ready, it's advising staging or making those little investments that they really believe that need to be made, but they'll hold right back?
Yeah, I think you kind of got two I have two different answers to those two different issues. The commissions one is simply a value perception, and now I'm very much the type of person that's unconventional. I don't believe there's such thing as cutting fees and stuff. I believe that you should be setting your prices based off of the value that you offer. I don't think like there aren't any set fees for real estate, even though some marketplaces have the standard kind of what the most common fee that's being offered.
Yes.
But could you imagine if WestJet and Air Canada got together and said, here's the fee? I mean, that's called collusion. They created laws against that years ago.
Yep.
And I think that you should only be paid for the value you bring to the table. One of the things that's really interesting, if we were to talk about a 3.5, 1.5 commission rate on one half of a sale, there's lots of our realtors who get 4 and 2.
Yep.
And how do they get that? And people are like, I can't even get, or you talk about 7 and 3, which would be $16,000 on a $400,000 listing. Well, in the U.S. they get 6%. That's $24,000.
Yep.
And in Ontario they get 6%. So what are they doing differently?
Yep, I agree. Crazy.
And so that value side of it is there. As for having the gonads per se to tell your client that something's wrong, we all have crucial conversations in our life that we need to have, and there's a book called Crucial Conversations, and it's worth the read. But
it sounds fabulous. Yep.
Yeah, it is fabulous. It's outstanding, and it's how to have those conversations. And there's these crucial conversations we know we need to have. It's like, God, that person is kind of stepping over my boundaries, or with a significant other. And I have a coach who is not a realtor in any way, shape, or form. And we talk, and just one of the things that he always tells me is like, Lindsey, sometimes you need to take a risk.
Love it.
In that relationship to take it to the next level.
Yep.
And you have to, and those risks can go wrong, but if you have a confidence in your communication style, and once you show that you're committed to the relationship, then I see that's it. It's like when someone comes up and the house, about telling what's wrong with their house, is just like, okay, you have to detach it from there. First of all, you have to, one of the problems that people fear invalidating people and invalidating their beliefs, especially if you talk about it's their ethnic cooking, it's their ethnic culture.
Yes.
They cut off, I don't know, chickens' heads and dump the blood all over the kitchen, and that's not what happens, but you know what I mean. Imagine there was a religion that did that on a regular basis, but let's just take ethnic cooking. It's like they cook, how do I tell them that?
Yep.
And I think it's a very easy conversation if you don't make it about them and you just make it about the fact of, listen, we're trying to appeal to the widest number of buyers ever. And you guys have, cooking that is amazing. I love curries. I love those types of things, stuff like that. It's just some people view it as a downfall. It'd be like someone smoking in the house.
Absolutely. Well, it leaves an odor, like it or not.
Yeah, exactly. But being willing to take a risk and have that conversation, and that's a life attribute. We know that. I mean, in terms of you got to be willing to ask for, what you want. And if you learn to ask in a way that, first of all, communicates that understanding about the reason they're doing it, then it changes everything, because they're not wrong. No. I mean, the reason they're not wrong is, they were taught from their beliefs, and it's just my belief versus their belief. And my belief comes with a little bit of experience, so I'll share that with them based off the real estate sales and why houses that smell bad don't sell for as much money.
Yep.
But I'll just communicate that and see how it goes.
Yeah, I those ones are always tricky, sort of landmines for some. I think it's for newer agents who are maybe not quite as confident or as experienced just yet. But once you kind of have a few under your belt, I think you get. It's just managing those emotions.
Totally.
Right? Yeah. So back to the failure conversation again. So you were talking a little bit about the 360, and so embracing failure has been sort of something that you've just obviously you've committed to it. You're so open and willing to share your story, which I think is awesome. What would you advise anybody else? Like when you have somebody who's going through a real challenge, like what are they, like they're so fortunate to have you, first of all, to go to, because I do think that people are really struggling on their own. How do you help somebody?
Well, I think someone that actually has that, or has been failing a little bit, there's, sorry, I'm getting a little bit of echo here on the feedback. Just one second. Let me just.
Nope. Can't hear you.
Okay, we back? Are you there?
Yeah, we're back.
Okay,
Good.
Awesome.
We're good.
Okay, helping people. I think first of all, you have to tell them that it's okay. And one of the things I'll do lots of times is I've also met so many people. You need to find somebody else that's going through it. I mean, this is support groups. AA has been doing this for years, and it's actually not until you like the 12th step in the Alcohol Anonymous process is that you have to help somebody else overcome their addiction.
Yes.
And that's so powerful for somebody else that you can say, you know, what would you put them in there? Somebody else's shoes. What would you tell the person? What would you tell yourself if you had? For me, it was always been like, what would 50-year-old Lindsey say to 34?
I love that. Yeah, I use that approach all the time too.
Yeah, and it just works because it gets people out of themselves and says, hey, you know, who's the type of person I want to be? But the big one is just that you don't have to face this world alone. There's so many people out there. There's your manager, there's the broker that's there, there's other agents who are standing, all those things. I mean, and go to somebody else.
I think that's like awesome for the people at your office to have you and to have access to that. What I feel, honestly, like I worry about the agents who are really struggling on their own, that don't have great support at their brokerage. And one of the things that I was, just been occurring to me as we're having this conversation is so many of the failures that we've been talking about have been sort of financial. And when you have to go and present yourself in front of as a listing presentation or something like that, and you feel like you have that sort of, imposter syndrome because you yourself are struggling with your own career.
Totally.
And it's like, it just becomes this like big, heavy, fraudulent burden that people carry around. And I don't have answers. I don't even know what the question is even. It's just sort of something that I've identified. So many people seem to really struggle with that, getting to that place where you can legitimately say, hey, I actually know what I'm doing. I'm confident that I can help you with your investment because I myself have figured out how to increase my worth. And it's like this big kind of hairy ball that nobody wants to talk about.
I think, you said you don't even know what the question is, and it's a great point. One of the things is just that when you get in those situations when you think, am I worthy of this, or can I do this? The question is always, okay, what do I know?
Yeah.
What am I good at? And there's lots of things. I always tell realtors right away, especially when they're brand new. It's like, well, I don't know anything. I've never sold a house. It's
yes.
like, number one, you got a whole lot of time on your hands, obviously, that you can dedicate to the process. But more importantly, why did you choose the brokerage that you chose?
Yes.
What was it about that? And for CIR, it's always that the support is there. I mean, we have a button in our virtual office that instantly connects you with the manager. So, our response times are very, very fast on that. And you have people who are always in contact, 24/7.
Amazing.
So that type of stuff's available to them. But more importantly, they can look back and say, you know what, I was a server in a restaurant, and I learned how to deal with difficult customers. And that's not going to help you get your house sold necessarily in terms of how I'm going to position on the marketplace. But I'll tell you one thing it is going to do is that when I field phone calls and when I see people at open houses, they connect with me. And you have that big name realtor who is aggressive and turns people off.
Yep.
We're going to have more people when they see your house want to take the next step of engagement, which is going to lead to more leads for your house, basically.
Absolutely.
Because I can bring that customer service style experience, and whatever their background is, maybe it's an accounting background, which understands the details of the transactions, or maybe it's construction background, where they can look at the house, and when they take them on the buying process, it's that, and they understand the depths and the true value of homes built with their bare hands, and all these types of things. It's like, what sets you apart? I always love the unique selling proposition for real estate. And I always say, you are, so to be Terry Conrad is the only realtor that, and when you can answer that question, you just blow everybody out of the water.
Agreed. Absolutely.
So.
I agree that UPI is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's so many things that we could talk about. I love what you're doing at CIR. I really do admire the company, and clearly when it attracts quality people like you, then they're obviously doing something very, very right. We're going to keep a close eye on you guys.
Cool.
Honestly. Before I let you go, Lindsey, I explained this to you earlier, but I always ask the question of all my guests, and this is the big one, and this is sort of why we're having these conversations, because I actually think that realtors are people first, and real estate is happening within that bubble that we call our lives. So when you're looking back at the end of your life, assuming this is the one and only shot that you have, what is the legacy that you want to leave? What is the meaningful stuff that's happened for you?
It's kind of funny because one of the most impactful moments in my entire life is I went to a training seminar. One of my friends was doing Amway and through Quickstar, and she was saying, hey, Doug DeVos is speaking. And he was one of the sons of the founders of Amway, and then they opened Quickstar and everything else and stuff. And I knew that listening to a billionaire talk would be worth my time.
Yes.
So I went in and I sat down, and he was talking about his, they had this, in a third world country or a war-torn country, they had one of their offices set up, and they had distributors coming online in this country. But one of the things that would happen is that a riot was coming down the street, and these, people like the rebels were coming in and burning down buildings, and these people had to pay their distributors. So they had employees risking their lives to sneak data out the back door before it got destroyed to ensure that everyone got paid on time.
Wow.
And he said, he's like, that's kind of something in our culture. And then he went on and shared a quick story about how he was talking to his accountant, and his accountant said, we're up this month. And the guy's like, oh, well, how do you know? Like, what are the gross numbers? What are the revenues? And he's like, well, I don't know. He's like, well, what are the expenses? And the accountant's like, well, I haven't run those numbers yet. I don't know. He's like, what do you don't know the numbers? You're the accountant. How do you know we're up? He's like, because more families have hit the next award level than anybody else. And he says, Doug, any month that we've been helping more people achieve their award club, that's it. He's like, I know we're up. We've had a great month. It's like a leading indicator. And Doug said, he's like, we just know that who we're helping is going to determine, how much we're paid. And when you talk about the go-giver and things like that, that's what it comes down to, is the number of people you're helping. I mean, Warren Buffett, I teach my class all the time. I'm like, Warren Buffett provides very little value to each person. I mean, he provides a little bit of value, but he owns, Geico, Coke, Dairy Queen. So if you've ever had a Coke or bought a Dilly Bar, or a Blizzard, you've put money in Warren Buffett's pocket.
Yep.
And so, but he's done it to enough people that he's a billionaire.
Yes.
And, Bill Gates, putting Windows on all the computers, has added a lot of value to a lot of people. He's a billionaire.
Yes.
So my thing of taking that nurturing thing of people first and running that data out the back door, and also just saying, how many people am I helping is going to determine my worth. And I had my agents on my team literally take a board after that, and I wiped it clean, because we had like, how many listing appointments, what's your conversion rate, blah, 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 blah. And I just said, how many people are you helping? And when I sit down with agents, new or old, it's funny because the experienced agents will be like, well, how many people are you helping? Who do you got on the go? They're like, well, my uncle kind of pricing out his house right now, and I'm like, okay, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And then I'll have a new person. I'll be like, well, how are you doing? How many people are you helping? And they'll be like, Lindsey, I haven't done a single deal. So, okay. How many people are you helping? Well, I did open house over the weekend. I did 4 of them, because I actually did 2 on Saturday from 10 to 12 and 2 to 4, and then 2 on Sunday. And he's like, I met 6 people who I set up on auto searches and stuff like that, and I'm going out, and I've offered like 5 people CMAs out of my database, and 3 people I'm going over and doing full evaluations for them, and I'm just like, you're going to be okay.
Yes, absolutely.
You're going to be okay, because you're helping those people. Now, many of those people will never do anything, and you'll be like, I wasted my time.
Momentum.
It's just part of the process.
Yeah.
It's like you'll have deals that fall apart, deals that come together, but the question is, how many people you're helping. When I look at my life, can I share one more story?
Please, no, go. It's great stuff. I was just going to say, like, impact leads to income. I always say that.
Yeah, and that's it. And I had a moment where I said to myself, okay, well, I watched this movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? You've probably seen it. It's in the gist of the movie is just in this world of infinite possibilities and lots of energy and physics, blah, 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 stuff that I don't necessarily agree with. But the point of the movie is that, like, okay, so in a world of infinite possibilities, how do we end up in the same place doing the same things?
Yes.
And it's like, why not tomorrow do I not live in San Diego or Dubai or someplace warmer than Calgary?
Right. That is a great question.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, and we have the same type of relationships, the same type of problems. So I said to myself, my real estate career at the beginning, people said, hey, you should be doing 1 deal a month to become successful as a new realtor. Mm-hmm. So I left that movie and I said, well, what if I did 10 deals a month? I was like, whoa, what would that look like? I was like, no, wait a minute. Infinite possibilities. How about like a deal a day? And I was like, no, wait a minute. What about 10 deals? And I said, no, I'm not thinking big enough. Whoa, 100 deals a day.
What?
I said, how would I do 100 deals a day? And then it stops and it makes you think. And the size of the question dictates the size of the answer necessary to solve the problem. So then I said, okay, well, first of all, I can't do it alone.
No.
So I needed a team.
Yes.
That's why I started a team.
Right.
And then I said, well, there's not even 100 deals a day that are done in Calgary right now. So it's got to be international.
Right.
Like, oh, okay. So now it's starting to come together. And what does it look like? Is there anybody else right now that does 100 deals a day? And people are like, no, there isn't. But au contraire. What about Remax?
Right.
How many deals do they do? CIR doesn't do. We'll do like, dozens and dozens of deals each day. But it's like Remax as a whole does 100 deals a day. Keller Williams as a whole does 100 deals a day. And there's many other companies that do that. And it's like, okay, hold on a second. Now you just got to get on the bigger business side of things.
That's right.
Warren Buffett isn't serving the blizzards.
Right.
Yet how many customers is he serving each day? And that's where the question for my legacy in terms of helping people and where I see my income and my future impact is not serving one person on the front lines of real estate, but is that strategic business positioning to grow a big enough organization to have that type of impact. And now it's like I teach one realtor to be great, and they impact 40 clients a year, 40 families a year. And we teach 600 people to do that. Now we have the impact, and as we grow, then my footprint can get that much bigger. And it comes down to, well, how many people you're helping? Well, 100 deals a day doesn't seem so obscene anymore.
I freaking love that. I love people who think big and have large vision. I myself have been challenged. I think I tend to like cut off little bite-sized pieces that I'm comfortable I won't completely fall on my face in. But I have to say, you've inspired me. Like I have with Agent Quest. I'm starting to think a little bit bigger, and the idea that you can help more people is very inspiring. Very inspiring.
It's the question, and that's the question. You'll never get paid unless you add that value. So
ain't that the truth?
Yeah,
that is so true. I love that. Let's leave it there because I'm going to go off and think on that for a bit. I have to think bigger. Thank you so much, Lindsey. This has been such a great conversation. I definitely want to take you out for coffee when I come to town, or probably a beer.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Either way, and I'll be out west here. So.
Yes. If you come out west, you have to let me know.
Will do.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Terry, talk to you soon.
Bye.